Hello guys and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me Vulcan. Today we're playing a 2v2 on Oppdal and my ally once again is Rangroo. He made me play a reasonable amount of games with him and they all turned out to be relatively good, so I picked like the couple of best ones, and last time you saw one of them and this time you're going to see another one. So this one is more about the conquest attrition that really goes on in conquest battles, and the reason that I never originally really liked conquest. So it's very easy to defend in Wargame, as many of you may know, and basically what you can do is you can gain an advantage early on by taking more sectors than the enemy and then hold them, and that basically will give you a lead throughout the game that will maybe take a bit longer than normal, but will inevitably give you a victory unless somehow the enemy finds a way of unraveling your defenses. This is one of those games, and it was actually quite interesting though, because I saw many opportunities that the enemy could have taken in order to crush our defenses pretty easily, and I'll go through them throughout the game as well as show off my play and my mistakes. So let's get on with it. Rangroo, as you can see, marked that he was going to be taking the right side. This is Alpha and Bravo, and he's got a German deck with Leopard 2A4s, Marder 1A3s, Marder Ronin 2s, and the M577G as his command vehicle. On my side, I have a French tank deck today, French armoured, and I have an M201 PC as my command vehicle. Now these are literally little jeeps. Not something I would recommend, but because it was a French armoured deck, they didn't have any decent armoured command vehicles other than tanks, I believe. So trucks were the way to go in this case. Then I've got some VABs with HGM Milans in them. And then I've got some AMX 30Bs coming onto the field, and another M201 PC to capture Delta. Rangroo's got his Lux A1 Recon ready, and he's pretty much spent quite a lot of his points on these tanks. These Leopard 2A4s costing 145 points each. Now I do have AMX 30 Ronin 3s on my deck. These are actually prototype French units, which you can't get unless you're playing a French deck. Then I've got the normal AMX 30 Ronins as well. Now the AMX 30 Ronin 3 does have 3 chevrons, and the AMX 30 Ronin only has 2 chevrons. Now I've got 8 VABs with chasseurs. These chasseurs actually play a massive part in defending Delta throughout the game, and it's quite interesting to see what they come up against and what they can beat at close range, especially with the VAB support. VABs aren't as powerful as maybe they were in Wargame European Escalation, but they still can have a dramatic effect on infantry versus infantry battles if they provide that cover. Furthermore, towards the end I brought in an AMX 10P Milan. Throughout this game, I am a bit lax on recon, and I do know that, and it's probably one reason that I would say the enemy could have taken advantage of our situation pretty easily. Realising my lack of recon at the start of the game, I do bring in a recon helicopter. However, one recon helicopter is not necessarily enough to keep most of the map secure. I also have a Mirage 2000 on deck to try and take care of any air cover that comes in at the beginning of the game. Now, unfortunately for me, Amber T brings in a SU-27S, and I have to retreat my Mirage very quickly to get away from that and the 2 MiG-23Ps that are heading my way. I'm going to go into my perspective from now on. You can see that all I can see at the moment is their air cover. Now, a mistake I made at the beginning here, I kind of forgot to move my M201 PC into position. I wanted it to go into this forest, and because I basically drag clicked all of my guys to fast move into this sector. I completely forgot that I could have just fast moved it up here and into the back of this forest. It basically remains there for the rest of the game, pretty much uncontested. Then I've got my 2 VABs. They're going to drop out their troops into this building. Basically gives me a strong point here to defend from. I've got my AMX 30Bs. They're going to try and head up onto the top of this hill and secure that. Then we've got my 8 VAB with chasseurs heading up this road to secure that. My AMX rolling 3s are going to be following my tanks, and I've got my recon on the left side with the Gazelle cannons, and they're currently being harassed by the MiG-25P. So fortunately for me, this route, after taking 1 shot from my AMX 30 Roland 3, I try and send off another missile to hit it, and my Mirage 2000 comes in to try and take it down before it gets off the battlefield, but unfortunately that didn't work out as planned. Now over on the right, Rangroo does an exceptional job throughout the game securing Bravo for our team, and at the start he does so by using his Marder 1A3s and Panzer Grenadiers with the support of Leopard 2A4s to take out their tanks and then secure the buildings for ourselves. And up here you can see my AMX 30Bs have finally bumped into some resistance. Their 2 T55 AM2s fire at one of my AMX 30Bs as I take out one of theirs, and then the other one is stunned by the Afghanskis while the other T55 takes it out. So spread out my chasseurs to block either side of this road gives me an early advantage on this side of the map. Got my VABs here trying to take out their trucks, but I basically lose all 4 of my VABs to their HGMs. But it still leaves my chasseurs perfectly fine. Now over on the right here, I do have a chasseur unit that was planning to head up to the forest up here somewhere. However, they did get caught out and their VAB blown up and they got ejected from the vehicle, and they didn't survive very long against the Motostrelki in close range there. So my recon at the top of this hill currently is doing a fine job of scouting the area. It's allowing me to see this Mi-24 VP, these BTRs telling me that there are troops in this residential area. We've got access to knowing what's coming in as reinforcements over on the side of Gulf. But I bring in some Gazelle cannons to try and face off against this Mi-24 VP. What I didn't see was their AA. And these 2 Shilkas that could get taken out by Rangroo's KPZ, well, that could have come in a bit sooner. But either way, this wasn't a mistake by Rangroo. After I told him, he kind of realised that his tank had come over all this way, and it was a bit strange. And being so close to these Motostrelki, unfortunately, didn't stand a chance against those rockets. And he does lose that tank there. Realising his Fuchs and Jagdkommandos were just about to suffer the same fate, manages to drop them out in time with a bit of communication from me, telling him that's what was exactly going to happen. Sends his Fuchs to try and deal with the Motostrelki. The Motostrelki, though, are basically quite high rank, and they're unlikely to miss many of their rockets. And meanwhile he's got his Jagdkommandos heading into this forest to take care of the infantry he finds. Now again, it was another squad of Motostrelki in here that took out 2 squads of his Jagdkommandos. We've got my chasseurs that were heading over the hill, facing off against his Motostrelki that I found. Now 4 units of chasseurs shouldn't have trouble at all taking care of his Motostrelki, so they make short work of them. What I didn't anticipate, unfortunately, was the arrival of a Yak 38. Now these things have napalm. And you can see my 4 juicy squads of chasseurs there, and 4 napalm bombs on the bottom of this thing. Needless to say, they didn't last very long. Luckily, I have more reinforcements coming. 8 units of chasseurs. They bump into 4 units of motor strelky. And the chasseurs, because of their overwhelming numbers advantage, take out these motor strelky squads very quickly. Now in terms of balance, the chasseurs and the motor strelky are about the same if they come on against each other 1v1 with full squads. But because of my numbers advantage and the rate of fire of the MAT 49 and the NF1, I kind of managed to kill them a lot quicker than they kill any of me. And that leaves me with still 8 squads of chasseurs. Didn't manage to kill a single one. Now the chasseurs that managed to survive the flames are now harassing some trucks on this side. And over on the right I've got an AMX 10P Milan with an AMX 40 taking care of any resistance they come across by this residential area. So you can see these motor strelky squads. There's one here and there's still one here. These were exceptional places to have flanked infantry because they're very close to roads and anything that moves down these roads is going to get killed by nearby infantry. So what they could have done throughout the game is reinforce those points, but they chose not to. And in some ways it was a good move, in some ways it was a bad move. By reinforcing it, it would make it a bigger threat. And it means we would have to go and deal with it, which would take forces away from our front lines and allow them to push through the sectors. But it would mean that they would have to invest a lot of points into that place, and then it would be pretty easy target for napalm or an artillery strike. So leaving it less reinforced meant that we didn't choose to deal with that throughout the game, and it did pick off a certain amount of units, but it wasn't really enough in order to change the tide of the battle. So my reinforcing chasseurs have arrived. I've left one group of chasseurs to head over the right side of the mountain and one to come over the left over here, which bumps into their PTUR Factorias after taking out a couple of trucks with troops in them. Comes under fire from an Mi-24 VP, but still manages to kill all of their infantry squads. My AMX 10P Milan's still doing work on the motor strelky that it found in this sector. I've got an HGM Milan F2 squad here. They're having fun poking at any vehicles they could find. But they do get taken out by the motor strelky. However, the AMX 10P Milans do eventually manage to kill this squad. So I managed to push most of their forces out of the forest on this side. I bumped into another motor strelky squad here, and I bumped into 3 groups of motor strelky just here. I've got another 3 groups of chasseurs attacking into this city with the VABs in order to take over the city sector. Trying my best at the moment with the help of the AMX 10P Milan and the AMX 40 to kill this motor strelky squad so that I can rush forwards the chasseurs to take over that building. The Mi-24 that's trying to destroy my AMX 40 gets killed by my AMX 30 Roland 3, and a MiG-27M comes in and does manage to get a nice shot off onto a couple of my units on the left side of this forest. He also gets a really nice shot onto my AMX 30 Roland 3. That didn't help much at all because it left all of my troops on this side exposed to his helicopter attack. I've got some VABs rushing up into his sector on Golf to take the pressure off the right side, I really wanted him to turn around this Mi-24 VP at this moment and go and help his Gulf sector. Because for all he knows, I could have troops in this, but after he destroyed a few of them, he probably realised that there wasn't. So, inevitably, I lose my AMX-40, and I'm pretty sure my AMX-10P follows swiftly after. Bringing in Mirage 2000 to try and quell this Mi-24 VP attack. And I bring in a second, after the first one has passed, to do the same. Unfortunately, this one didn't exactly get out alive. The Mi-24 VP changed his altitude, and an Su-27 and a MiG-23 comes in, and let's say that didn't last long. And he comes down somewhere in this forest. Poor guy. So my chasseurs are still harassing the enemy on this side, killing a lot of their troops before they can even get out of their vehicles. The reason I know this is if you go to the neutral stance, you can see that these Urals, they do have soldiers in them, and my chasseurs keep hitting them and blowing them up before they can even get out. So that's going to cost them a lot throughout the game, losing troops that they didn't manage to eject from their vehicles. Knowing that I need some reinforcements at this point, bring in some logistics, and I've got some reinforcement VABs with chasseurs, and of course more recon after realising that my Alouette on top of this hill has been dead for a pretty long time now. And I've been without recon for ages, but because I've been fighting in such like an enclosed battlefield here, like rushing down this hill, there's not much need for recon because you're so close, and also I'm on top of this hill. These AMX-40s, as you can see what they were trying to fire at pretty easily. Two AMX-40s up here. They managed to take out the Norov. I get an AMX-30 Roland up to take care of the Mi-24, and the three groups of chasseurs that survive get into the residential area safe and sound. So, occupying this residential building, they have a supreme advantage over the Motorstrelki, and I do manage to take them out pretty easily. A MiG-27M comes in, manages to kill my AMX Roland 30. Bumping into his Motorstrelki again on this side. I've now got the reinforcements to take care of them. So I advance with these chasseurs to flank the Motorstrelki and kill them off. Over on this side, I've got my 4 chasseur squads facing off against 3 Moskaya Pehota. It was surprising how well this fight went for me. Chasseurs are like terrible units in comparison to the Moskaya. But with the help of the VAB suppressing the Moskaya with their larger caliber machine guns, we actually kill these guys very efficiently with just 4 squads of chasseurs. Admittedly, the AMX-30Bs come in at the end to finish them off, but I was surprised at how well that went. Now an artillery strike comes in and surprisingly was inaccurate, and could have killed probably all my chasseurs that were left, but because it missed so badly, that didn't happen. So only bumping into 2 Motorstrelki squads on this side, I kind of identified a third Motorstrelki squad that had broken off earlier in this tree line here. I couldn't leave this here because this is my reinforcement point. And if I just kept bringing in reinforcements down this road and I didn't deal with that Motorstrelki squad, they would become elite very quickly and would end up taking out a lot of my units. So I spot a KA-29TB coming over the mountain on the left. So I bring in some air support to try and kill that. Now KA-29TBs generally carry elite forces, so I was very keen to shoot that down. My Mirage has a nice time. I've brought in a couple of Gazelle cannons in order to help out. But making the KA-29 TB route, he can't drop off his forces. And with the last sweep of my Mirage 2000, I shoot down that helicopter nicely as my Mirage 2000C tries to fly through a mountain. Yeah. So more napalm has dislodged my chasseurs in this small residential area. And that basically gives them back control so that they can bring in more motor strelky to reinforce. Now my presence of chasseurs over here, they got napalmed earlier. Something that I could have done with these chasseurs over here is after I attacked a lot of their trucks, is I could have moved them round the edge of the forest so they were less likely to be napalmed. It's probably something that I'm probably not quite good at, is a micromanagement across a large scale. So it would have been very easy to save a lot of my infantry troops had I purely just moved them after attacking with them. It's very easy to save troops that way. Now here I managed to lose a couple of Gazelle cannons to one motor strelky squad after I bring in 4 Gazelle cannons to deal with an Mi-24. This gets hit by my AMX-30 Roland, and I managed to take it down pretty quickly after that. So Amber T tries to bring in a T-64 BV, take on my AMX-40s. What he doesn't realise is that both of my AMX-40s are elite in veteran status, because I bring in all my tanks on this particular deck as elite tanks. They have extremely fast aim times and great accuracy, improved by the veteran status, that they're pretty much unmatched at extremely long range, especially against packed tanks. So, I decided to bring in a couple of Gazelle Hots. These are here to take care of any more heavy armor that he decides to bring in after the display of that T-64. I've got some AMX-30Bs up here though. I basically sent them up there in order to flank forces that were on this road. Here you can see the destruction of all my VABs that unfortunately didn't make it. AMX-30Bs with their autocannons start firing on the Mi-24 VP that comes up behind them. But with the help of the AMX-30 Roland, managed to kill that pretty easily. Now over here, a T-80 catches me by surprise. So what happens is the T-80 comes up, shoots my AMX-30B pretty quickly. My AMX-30B shoots back at such close range, does a lot of damage, then my AMX-40 manages to hit it in the side for the kill. Now, the Yak-38 will plague me no more as he gets shot down by the AMX-30 Roland. However, did for probably the 4th time manage to hit a 4 chasseur squad and burn it alive. Now this happened after they revealed themselves to the Mi-24 that got shot down by the AMX-30 Roland. Now up here I've brought my AMX-30B to try and kill off a couple of units that may be moving around the bottom of this cliff edge. And we're still seeing Mi-24 VPs come onto the battlefield. So I've got recon on this side with my Alouette, and on this side most of the recon's being provided by my chasseurs. That was really what I was counting on throughout the game. with us being 292 points over the enemy's 18, we decide that we need to do something to make this game a bit more exciting. Because at the moment, the game's been very sort of back and forth, with us throwing troops at each other and not really getting very far. So I've thrown so many units of chasseurs at the enemy that I lost count. And he probably threw so many Mojostrelki units at me, he lost count. We decided, in the end, to push up on the right, together. So me and Rang got together our best forces, which was my AMX-40s, my AMX-30 Roland 3s, but good old Rangroo didn't exactly notify me of the HGM presence in the area, and unfortunately for me, my AMX-30 Roland 3 and an AMX-40 gets taken out before the battle even starts. So, I send forwards my two AMX-40s to spearhead the charge for his Leopard 2A4s, which he has a hell of a lot of. Now, my presence in this battle didn't exactly last long. We've got all our forces on attack move. I brought over some Gazelle Hots on this side to try and flank their forces, but that didn't end up going very well because they got shot down by Mojostrelki in this tree line. But this was really the push that secured us the win for this game. So, I've already lost an AMX-40, Rangroo's just lost a KPZ-70 and a Tornado there, and all he has left is 3 Leopard 2A4s which are continuing to push against the HGMs in these buildings. Now, having HGMs in all these buildings is a very easy way to defend this sector, but because Rangroo had so many Leopard 2A4s built up, the front armor of these can absorb HGMs pretty easily, and then they generally don't stand a chance. Now, in a last-ditch effort, for some reason the enemy decides to artillery on my FOB. So that's where my FOB was, and he manages to destroy it. Good for him. And then starts to fire on my M201 PC. So the push continues over on the right here. The Leopard 2A4s doing work on the enemy forces. You can see the wrecks of an Mi-28 Havoc here. Got a rocket barrage coming in from Rangroo's Lars 2s. Basically paves the way for Rangroo's Leopards. Unfortunately, although the enemy brings in 2 Mi-28s, Rangroo's pretty prepared with his Flak Panzer Gepards. However, if the enemy hadn't pushed so far forwards with those Mi-28s, he could have taken out all these Leopards without them having any air cover as well, because obviously the Flak Panzers are very limited in their range. Also, my AMX-40 helped out with its own autocannon there. But things have pretty much died down on the left side. I set up a defensive line that I could rely on while I helped Rang push on the right. The reason I didn't bring in more forces at this point was because, well, for one, we knew the game was over because we'd taken out their Echo command vehicle, which left us at +3. But there is no reinforcement points on this side of the map. There's one on this side and there's one at the bottom. There's nothing close by. You have to bring it up this huge road. So as I lose my AMX-40, the last of them, the game ends and we win the battle. So, however long that may have seemed, it only lasted 25 minutes and 59 seconds. We didn't come out with very good scores at all. In actual fact, it was very, very close throughout the game. I came out with 2,124 kills to 2,185 losses, so I was actually negative. Rangroo did a lot better with 2,342 kills, 1,895 losses, and even on the enemy side, Amber T, who was a major, came out with 2,695 points to 2,261. That was the opponent that I was facing on my side of the map. So he did very well in that respect. But because I held on to my position and allowed Rangroo to basically kill Echelon, it didn't matter what Amber T did, he couldn't turn the tide of the battle without teaming up with his friend. So this left us at a massive advantage, and therefore we won the battle. So there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. It wasn't the most exciting battle in terms of large amounts of kills, but I felt it really showed the attritional effect that conquest games can have, and it's really quite nice, I feel, because it allows you to continue doing stuff throughout the game without having to worry about throwing away too many points. Conquest really allows you to focus more on the strategy of the game than whether or not you're going to lose a leopard, which is worth 145 points. That's probably the biggest change in mindset that really occurs and basically makes the gameplay a lot more fun because you don't have to worry. So there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.